What would you do if someone in your place of work refused to do anything you asked them to do because they said, and I quote, "I'm only here because my dad made me get a job"? Well, this isn't a hypothetical scenario. This is something that I actually went through. And it was my first real challenge since being in a management role for 2 years. And it was also something that dramatically shaped my view of effective leadership. You see, Sadie, we'll say her name was, it was her first job, and she was forced to get it. And she didn't do really anything. And you couldn't ask her to do anything. And she would be a complete stone wall defiance. You could ask her to sweep the floor, and she would simply say, "Nope, not going to do that." And it became a real problem for our team and really hurt the morale of the team. And we had a manager meeting about her and trying to figure out what we could possibly do. And we were told we couldn't fire her, so we had to work around that. And the thought occurred to me. I said, what's the worst that could happen? How about we just play nice? How about we just praise her for anything that she does and just make it the biggest thing? And how about we work more shoulder to shoulder with her and give her more attention, like positive attention, and see how she responds to that. And everyone was in agreement. Let's give it a try and see what happens. So we started doing it. And the shocking thing was how quickly we saw positive results. It all started with just a simple, "Hey, Sadie, great job on wiping the counter. They look great." And just seeing a smile on her face. And before we knew it, she became more and more motivated to doing more and more things. And she wanted to learn more and she wanted to be a part of things more. And our shoulder to shoulder sessions and heart to heart conversations went really well with her. And as a result, Sadie went from being someone who was a hindrance and a slacker and ended up being a star employee and actually ended up being at one point an employee of the month. And reflecting on what our textbook covers, chapter 10, Leadership and Conflict, Miller writes about the different types of power that leaders have. And while we were using our legitimate power as supervisors, we were using it in more of an authoritative and coercive manner that Sadie wasn't responding to. And when we shifted that technique to being more role models and rewarding her with positive feedback, that's when she became more receptive and actually grew and developed into a much better employee, a star employee. And since that time, I've been in a management role for 7 years. And while I have grown in areas of conflict resolution and dealing with difficult employees, there's still areas that I want to work on, some goals that I have to achieve. The first goal that I really want to achieve is to become an expert active listener. I've learned through our readings, chapter 3 on listening. Miller shares the different types of active listening. Critical, informational, empathetic. And I find that I get too caught up in my critical mindset, critical listening. I always want to break things apart and try to figure things out. But I often don't listen to learn or listen to hear someone's side and to sympathize with them and to not judge them. I really fall short in that area. And I know that being an active listener means that I'm spending time to intentionally engage with someone to have proper dialogue. And that's an area that I really want to focus on to being an effective leader. And to go off of that, my second goal is to have more mindfulness in my communication style. I learned in chapter 18, Violante writes and shares the DISC communication styles: dominance, influence, steady, and conscientious. That was really eye-opening for me that there were these four different styles that I could use for various situations. And I know that if I hone in and learn each of those styles and know them well enough to apply to various situations while I'm in a leadership role, that I can be a far more effective leader. Because the thing is, why this matters to me, first and foremost, is that I know that communication is what gets things done. And if you want things to be done effectively, you have to be effective in your communication. And to be effective in your communication, you have to be a good listener. It all connects. At least that's the way I see it. And I've seen my peers who are also working to have higher positions in leadership and seeing them fall into the same trap that I found myself when it came to Sadie. They focus their power, their legitimate power, to be more authoritative and to implement things and almost coerce and push people and be more dominant. And that's very one-dimensional. Leadership is an umbrella because people are different, and you have to be able to understand how people respond to things and adjust to what they need. And I believe that by seeing my peers work in those leadership roles, it reminds me that many people are given power, but not everyone knows how to effectively use it. And I hope that when I continue to lead, I'm able to produce more Sadies because nothing gives me greater joy than when I'm a leader to be able to bring out the best in someone. And I can do that by improving both my listening and my communication styles. And I hope that by bringing out the best in people, I can make the world a better place.